I'll kick off a demo just because it is very related to Snowflake. Sharing. Okay. This was me looking up what Red Bull Rampage is. Looks pretty awesome. So this demo, it's a little hard to demo this, but I'll do my best. But the demo I'm going to show you is Omni executing queries inside of Snowflake's container services. So let's just come up with a new query here. Do gender count. Okay, so we ran a new query. I'm going to have to show you logs to prove this to you, but that query is actually executing inside of Snowflake. So I go over here to Snowflake, and this is actually going to be really hard to demo because the logs in Snowflake are very delayed. So maybe I'll just show you one of the queries I ran a few minutes ago. When you scroll through here, you can see, this is the code that actually runs our queries. It's printing out the query that it ran. What's doing is it's popping the results data onto S3, and then we're picking it up off of S3 and populating into the app. So this has sort of been a little bit of a challenge to get stable. It's stable right now. Candidly, I'm not totally sure why. So I'm still kind of working through some of that, but short version is, with actually, this is 0 code changes that allowed this to work. It's all infrastructure. There are probably some code changes we're going to want to make to make it work really well, but it's reasonably fast. And once I get more confidence in its stability, I think we'll be in a pretty good spot to keep plowing ahead to provide a native app. And sort of the story we want to be able to tell is your queries can execute inside of Snowflake. Your cache can sort of stay inside the Snowflake perimeter as well. And so your data will never need to be stored inside of Omni to actually use Omni. So this would be a single tenant thing, I think initially. And our understanding, and I heard there was confirmation of this at Summit, is that all of these Snowflake native apps are sort of very, very early in the maturity curve. And that's kind of the expectation, both from Snowflake side and their customer side. So candidly, this is a little bit more demoware than anything, I think, for the foreseeable future. But obviously, the more that we can give the Snowflake audience the warm and fuzzies, the better off we're going to be.
Yeah, just to echo that too, though, the Snowflake folks are beyond excited about this. And then actually, we chatting with some of these very large customers, there is definitely interest and appetite. It makes the procurement process much easier. We don't necessarily have to become a sub-processor for them. So for the folks think like large financial institutions, this could be pretty material for us to accelerate, the sales process. And like just for everyone's kind of context too, what it means is if you buy Omni as a native app through the Snowflake marketplace, you're a customer of Snowflake's, you're drawing down Snowflake's commit. The AE on the Snowflake side is compensated based on that. You're retiring quota for them. So it's potentially really exciting from the go-to-market side.
And
yeah, so
Chris, you mentioned that there weren't any product or code changes necessarily. Does this forgo then the DuckDB cache since it's all staying within Snowflake, or is it still being cached browser side for?
So it can still be cached browser side, just like that part works the same. I'd say that the biggest difference is the part of the app that caches it server side moves into the Snowflake world and exclusively uses S3 for that cache. So really, I mean, the story is quite good from that perspective, where with no code changes, we can tell the story of query execution happens closer to Snowflake. Cache lives, the server side cache lives inside of the Snowflake perimeter, or your S3 perimeter if you want to sort of use S3. So this version, the code is actually coming, or excuse me, not the code, the data is coming back through our servers on its way out to the browser, which is a little bit less than ideal. I think it's still an okay story because the data is not being stored at that point. It's just sort of traveling through the network to get out there. I do think, one of the things I want to try to do is to see if we can get it to go straight from Snowflake to the browser. But it's definitely possible, just kind of a question of, how much change are we going to have to introduce to do it? But that I think obviously would be an even nicer story of like, hey, data never hits our servers. It's only on your Snowflake server and your browser.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, definitely when we get to larger companies, but I know I ran into this at Monte Carlo, the multi-tenant setup and like just the fact that their data is potentially going to be living side by side someone else's was kind of an ongoing problem. So for those really large enterprises that are leveraging Snowflake, I think this would help mitigate some of the concern.
Yeah, exactly. And I think at least the first version of this, I'm thinking of it as like our engine that can live in Snowflake, and everything else about the system remains multi-tenant, but you can kind of have your own engine.